whatever your faith is, whether, you have no faith at all, I think this is something that will be relevant to anyone's lives. The current sufferings that you have right now are going to be nothing compared to the glory that you have later.
You are now tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast with your host, Cole Nixon. Much love.
What's up, everybody? Thank you for tuning in to the Roughnecks Podcast on YouTube. I'm your host, Cole Nixon. My goal of this podcast is to bring on leaders in the world of athletics, coaching, entrepreneurship, and just life in general to try and motivate us all to be better. We shouldn't strive to be millionaires in terms of money, but by the millions of lives that we can impact. If you want to be a guest or have a guest idea that you'd like to hear from, then shoot me an email at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com. Be sure to subscribe and then hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of the future episodes. You can catch the Roughnecks Podcast in audio form on any of your favorite podcast apps like Apple, Spotify, or Google. Head over to social media. Give us a follow on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast, Twitter at Roughnecks Pod C1, and Facebook at Roughnecks Podcast. As always, be sure to grab the bull by the horns and take control of your life. Let's get into this week's episode. What's happening? We're back at it, finally, somewhat back to normal. Not really. This is kind of weird. We got an episode coming out on a Friday, but I got a good guest with me this week. Played football with him at Ohio Wesleyan for 4 years, and he was part of the 7-Eleven gang, which we'll discuss here in a second. But Shane Quin, welcome to the Roughnecks Podcast, my guy.
Thanks. Appreciate it, bro. Happy we could finally get it figured out, and I appreciate the invitation.
Yes, sir. So we're going to talk about 7-Eleven real quick because, only really the people at Ohio Wesleyan know what that is, but I came in as number 4. Luckily, I changed to number 7. Shane was number 11. We were both safeties when we came in. Were you a safety when you originally came in?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I was when we came in. Yep. It's actually funny. We came in a class of like 11 safeties.
Yeah.
There was like probably I
was the only one left.
Safeties and yeah.
Everybody else.
You and me were the only two. Yeah, our sophomore year were the only 2 left, and then after that, you were the only safety out of all 11 that was still there and playing safety. So
yeah, it's crazy what happens in a D3 in football in general. People just drop like flies.
Right.
But so
Yeah,
7-Eleven, sophomore year, both of our starting safeties go down. Me and Shane were both the backups, and we were 7-Eleven, number 7, number 11. So we just said 7-Eleven only closed on Saturdays. That was our thing. And, 2 scared sophomores. I was fucking nervous. I was sitting back there almost shit my pants at times.
No, yeah. It was cool. We both came in around, I think it was 1 week. I think you started week 5. I started week 6 or something like that. We both just came in. Originally thought we were going to be backups the whole year, and I'm getting thrown into the fire. And then, the 7-Eleven just kind of stuck all through senior year. So it was pretty cool, yeah.
We were part of a very damn good defense that year, too. We had some studs. Maybe not in the back end, but
it didn't hurt having Nate Trone and Sterling out there either.
Yes. Yes, that is very true. So I just want to first ask, we're going to get into a big discussion on Ohio Wesleyan because, that's kind of like how we know each other. That's really the only way we know each other. But I'm going to first ask you, why you chose Ohio Wesleyan over all these other schools, because you came from Chardon, Ohio, and then made the transfer to Delaware, Ohio, which are they different? I've never been to Chardon, so I can't say what they're like. So just give me a background of why you chose Ohio Wesleyan, essentially.
Yeah, so maybe as I came to Ohio Wesleyan, I actually had a coach. He's my football coach and basketball coach in high school that played at Ohio Wesleyan. He graduated in, I believe, 2012 or somewhere around there. But yeah, he played football here. He played for Coach D. Coach D actually said it was one of his favorite players of all time. And so he took me up here when I was a junior, showed me around Delaware, introduced me to the coaches and stuff. And so, the main reason I chose Ohio Wesleyan, it really just seemed like a good fit with the coaches. And I want to go somewhere. It really came down to Ohio Wesleyan and John Carroll for me. And I wanted to go somewhere where I felt I could play number 1. I get on the field early, which we just talked about, that definitely happened. I wanted to go somewhere where I could win. I didn't want to be a part of a losing program. We've had a couple tough years here, but for the most part, that's been upheld as well. So, I mean, those are really the two main reasons why I ended up coming out of Delaware.
So then you made that after sophomore year, you had to make a different shift again, where you went from playing safety to linebacker. Talk about that. Now, was that a coach decision? Did you ask to do that? Because I honestly never knew what happened. I just kind of was like, I mean, I'm cool with him playing linebacker. I know he's going to be a damn good linebacker, because you're one of those people who you don't care who's in your way. You're going to try and you're going to knock him out as hard as you can. So what was that decision like?
For sure.
And whose decision was it?
Yeah, so I kind of say it was kind of half and half. Like, I kind of noticed right after the season, or really during the season, our sophomore year, I'm like, we have 4 guys who all have a lot of varsity experience at safety. You, me, Mario, and Rubel. I was like, it's only going to be 2 safeties, sometimes 3 on the field at once. There's a huge hole now at linebacker, with Cam and Jordan graduating. So, I mean, it kind of was like, one of us should probably go down there. So I was actually going to ask anyways, just because I felt it'd get me on the field more. I thought we were probably going to be rotating if I stayed at safety. And I was like, I feel like if I go down to linebacker, I have a pretty good shot to probably – not be rotating, be on the field every play. But then when I met with Coach D, he asked me anyways. He was like, I think we're going to move you down to linebacker. And so I never even had to even ask. It just ended up working out pretty good. And then obviously, I mean, from there forward, I had to switch up my training and everything, try and put on some weight. But I mean, it just ended up being a pretty good fit for me. So, yeah.
The weird thing is like you said, we had pretty good safeties, and, me and you, we were their backups originally, and then they came back, and then we look at it. I had to move positions too, because that's the year I moved to corner. So it's like One of those things that that kind of shows how deep that was probably the only time in our life that we would have been deep at safety, but we kind of made the transition. We just shifted people around. Like, you could probably still go back and play safety. Now, you might not be as fast as you were then, but neither am I. I'm not fast at all. So it's all good. But so did you prefer safety or did you prefer linebacker?
I think that I probably preferred safety. I think that, as a position, I think safety is probably my favorite position on the football field. I just feel like you get to cover a lot, but you also get to, be involved in the run game. But then I'd say it's probably been I probably enjoyed playing linebacker more just because I've had more success. I mean, obviously, like you said, we were just, sophomores at the time, got thrown into the fire. So as a position, I probably like safety a little better overall, but I mean, I've enjoyed playing linebacker a lot these last 2 years. So
a linebacker, when you think of a linebacker, you get that cliche. I'm going to call it cliche, that cliche word of almost like they're a tough guy. Now, yes and no. So I know some linebackers that are big softies.
Right.
I don't, not necessarily at Ohio Wesleyan, but I know they're out there. But so our topic this month is toughness, and which I've been slacking on, but that's beside the point. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear the word toughness?
Yeah, so I think, again, this is just my definition. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to, define toughness. I think it's someone who is able to do something called embrace the suck. That's something that I know is a big thing in the Navy SEALs. And when I was at Chardon, they preach that constantly. But I think when you think about what makes somebody tough, how much can they embrace an environment that honestly just sucks? Okay, an environment where they're uncomfortable, an environment that, is outside of their comfort zone. And so for me, I think that's what really defines how tough you are. And I think in our society, it's something that isn't really very much, being outside of comfort, embracing an environment that, really the suck is what I kind of think about when I think of this.
And really, that exactly what I'm thinking at the same time, because I have in my notes Coach D here, and that's basically what Coach D does to us. For those of you who don't know, Coach D has been at Ohio Wesleyan for years, forever, for as long as you can probably remember, and he is one of my favorite coaches I've ever had. But he every single day finds a way to make us suffer in a way. We run pursuit 3-4 times a week. The only day we don't is Friday, and Thursday is usually a quick one. But we run pursuit, and it's no joke. Like, you got to run your ass off. We'll keep running until you're running your ass off.
Oh yeah.
And then he'll usually try and change that. Like, he'll make it do the practice plan on purpose to where we're running pursuit and going straight into like a team period where we're going up against the first team offense. And you're just like, and the offense is like, they've been running routes and doing whatever they do over there. They don't do much over there, but they're just kind of, and then we're dead tired, and he does it on purpose. But like, that's right there is how you build not only your physical toughness, but also your mental toughness. And that's what I want to ask you too about is the difference between physical and mental toughness. So like, what do you think the difference is between the two? Like, how would you best explain what mental toughness is versus physical toughness?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I think I believe that your mental toughness is going to be a lot more prevalent than your physical toughness almost always. I think that there's very few times where physically your body's going to give out while mentally you could keep on going. Basically, that's never going to happen. Even like the example you just talked about, like when you're running pursuit and you're going right into the team period, your body can physically do that and more. But it's always about whether or not mentally, you're going to tap out. Now, there are some times where you physically just can't go anymore, but I think that very rarely do you ever actually hit the point of physically you just can't go anymore. Like right now, if I'm like, go and do a plank as long as you can, let's say you hold it for 5 minutes. In reality, you could probably hold it for more than 5 minutes physically, but it's your mental toughness that's always going to go first, or almost always is going to be your mental toughness that's going to give out before your actual physical toughness. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Yeah. Like, yeah. How many people do you see that honestly like push themselves to where they literally pass out?
Right. Very, very rarely.
And that goes to show like that's your brain or your mental toughness. Like some people, yeah, you could have those one of the best mental toughnesses you've ever seen in your life, but they're still eventually going to give out. Like right. It's going to happen. They're going to give up. I'm not going to say give up, but like in a way, give up. We all do it. And that's where, that pursuit, and that's where it weeds out those like freshmen that come in, especially because I remember as a freshman, that first day we're running pursuit and I'm like, all right, cool. Like whatever. Then that second day we're running pursuit and I'm like, we're still running pursuit. Like we run pursuit every day. And I'm like, God damn. But that's where it like weeds out those people. How mentally strong are you? And then like, that's why we do go straight into a team period because, especially at safety, we get all kinds of calls and we have to make all kinds of different freaking checks all the damn time. And that's where your mental toughness is really tested. Like it's crazy what it does, but you look at how that happens. Like how can someone build their mental toughness to become better? Because it's not necessarily easy, but it can be done in my opinion.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that, it's funny we started talking about Coach D because, he gave me a book to read, Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. I think it's been talked about on here before.
When I think of toughness, David Goggins, without a doubt, is the first person that comes to mind.
Right. It's just the first thing that comes to my mind when I start thinking about this stuff. So, I can't help talking about it. I just think, it's hardening your mind. I don't really think a lot of it is just a choice. When are you going to, like you were just saying, like, when are you going to make that choice whether or not to quit or whether or not to keep on pushing your body further? It is not easy to do, but in a way, it is pretty simple to a lot of people. It's like, how far are you going to push yourself and what you're doing? It's not necessarily like if you look at it, from a physical aspect, someone who can maybe do, much less than somebody else could still be pushing themselves, much harder, if that makes sense. What I'm saying? It's all about, when are you going to check out and when are you going to, flip that switch and give up? And when is someone else going to push themselves, further?
When I look at it too, I think the people with the stronger mental toughness are the people with less athletic ability. In a sports world, at least,
right?
Because they have to fight for everything. Like you look at our freshman year, we had a crap load of safeties. We had a battle, and it was one of those where, this sucks right now, but I'll be damned if I'm going to be last string on a depth chart. Like I'm going to try and work my way up on the depth chart. So when you have something to chase too, that's the other thing. When you have something to chase, your mental toughness goes up.
Exactly.
And I think the hard thing is to keep a strong mental toughness when, you don't necessarily have a reason for it.
Right.
That's where it's hard. Like, waking up an hour earlier. Yeah. All right. I can get by without doing it. I mean, I guess that's kind of mental toughness, but it's like one of those things of, how do you, when you have to choose what's a priority, and that's when your mental toughness, like your strong mental toughness comes out and those things. So, but then I'm also going to ask you about your physical toughness because you're one of those people. I don't think I could go into the gym and not see you in there. I feel like every time I've gone in, it doesn't matter when, which I go in a lot less than you do. But how much do you work out a week?
You don't give yourself enough credit, Nixon. But I mean, I try to go, in the summer, like right now. I mean, I try to go every day. I wouldn't say I go 7 days a week if like, I can't go for one reason or another. But I mean, I try and go 7 days a week if I can. But, it really just depends on the schedule for that week right now. Obviously during the season it's different. I mean, I live as much as I can, but yeah, in the off season, like right now, I mean, I try and go every day if I can,
Are you still living in the Dirty D?
I am in the Dirty D.
The
Yeah.
Dirty D.
With Crater and Lucas.
So
yeah.
you got the field and you got the weight room. You're working the weight room too, aren't you?
Yeah, working the weight room. Yep, can't beat it. So I'm basically getting paid
So
to
you're
work
the
out.
definition of a meathead.
Yeah, basically, I've really bolted into becoming that. Yeah, I can't deny it anymore.
So I'm gonna ask you just for a little bit. What is your most recommended workout and why?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it really depends on like what you're going for. Like for you and me for so long, it's been all about becoming a better football player, and I see just in a football aspect specifically, I think it probably goes against a lot of research and a lot of like science behind it, but I just think it's all about how strong are you and how explosive are you. Like I think if you can get under the bench and you can bench press 400 pounds, I think that's going to benefit you on the football field. I think if I was able to bench press 405 pounds when I'm taking on Wittenberg's pulling guard, I'm going to have a lot more force coming to try and get him out of the way. So that's kind of how I see it. I think like if you're a football player, I think power clean is the number one workout. I just think that motion of hip explosion, full extension, we are huge on power clean here. I think that, no matter what position you're playing, you're going to be doing that movement constantly. And so the more weight that you can move doing that, I just think it's going to pay off. I mean, I'm also a huge believer in back squat. That's probably my personal favorite.
Never skip leg day.
No, never skip leg day. You're an athlete, never skip leg day. Now, it's different if you're done playing sports. Then it's not really about how strong you are. It's more about how strong you look if you're still trying to.
Yeah, you're just trying to look good. You're not trying to be like this big muscle guy.
It'll be a lot different once I'm done playing. I'm sure you've already experienced that some.
I just got into beer. That's what I do now. I've been trying to get in the gym and stuff, but it's been difficult with work too. I work outside, so that's a workout in itself, putting in fiberglass pools. So, but
manual labor, that's a whole different type of workout right there.
Yeah, not exactly what you want to do after college, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, I respect that though.
So the other thing I want to ask you about is, before I go into that, I forgot to say something. It blows my mind. You talked about power cleans. It blows my mind when we have freshmen and stuff that come in and literally have no idea how to power clean.
It's a shame, man. It really is. And it's just like it goes, it's all about your high school football program. Like my high school football program, I mean, I knew how to power clean from the time I was in 8th grade.
Yes.
But some of these guys are coming in as a freshman. It's not even their fault. They just are not being taught how to do anything in the weight room, and it sets them back so far from where they could be.
Yes.
Coming from a good high school football program that actually, teaches you how to lift. These guys are coming in having no idea how to even power clean. It's really hard to catch up.
I don't know. Chardon's not that good, are they?
Oh, come on.
I had to throw it in there.
On this road. It's a premier high school football program for sure.
They went to state this year,
she won it this year for the first time in a very long time.
Did you ever go to state? Not trying to be like a dick. I'm just asking.
No, we didn't. I mean, I believe that we had a shot my year, but no, we ended up losing in week 12. Yeah,
it's okay. I only made it to week 11 one time, so
right.
You got me beat. I can't even sit here and give you shit because I never made it.
Right.
But I got to ask you about the tough decision. It might have not been a tough decision for you, but it was a complicated decision. Our senior year got basically ripped away from us, but you decided to come back for an extra year. Take me through that decision, because that's a life decision in a way.
Yeah.
So take me through that decision and what all happened, what all your thought process was through it, and why you decided to stay an extra year.
Yeah. Well, first off, it was definitely not an easy decision. It was an extremely challenging decision. It was one I had to make pretty quick you know, we didn't find out that we weren't having a season until, I mean, it was like a few weeks before we were coming back. We didn't know for sure. And for me, I was student teaching in the spring, so I had to make a decision basically right away as to whether or not I was going to, you know, save a class and be able to come back. But for me, ultimately, it came down to, you know, simply just football. I mean, you know, I still feel like I have, you know, more games to play, and I still just love playing football. You know, I'm not ready to hang it up, as the honest truth. And even more than that, you know, I really feel like we had the team this year to win a conference championship. I really think that, you know, had we had our whole team together, played a 10-game season, I think this was the year to do it. And that was like when I came in, you know, that was the number one thing I wanted to, you know, I want to see us do was win a conference championship. And so, you know, I'm hoping that I can come back next fall and we'll be able to do that. And I think I still have a lot to contribute and hopefully it's getting there. So, I mean, just a lot. I feel like I have a lot to give to the game of football and a lot left to give to Ohio Wesleyan still.
So, yeah, like I look at it, I wanted to come back so bad, but like my big thing was money. That was where I had to draw the line. But you guys are so close to a conference championship, especially after our junior year, where we were literally one game away.
Right.
One game away from doing it. And me and Kenny just talked about this. We just had our episode. It came out on Tuesday. We just talked about like that feeling. And that was the other thing that I told when I was talking to my parents, which surprisingly, my mom's all about football and my dad didn't play football, but like my mom's all about it. And I thought she was going to be the one to tell me to go back for next year, but it was my dad. Yeah. And my mom was like, well, but I also had to make the adult decision by myself. And then I look at it, our junior year, when we walked off the field after Wittenberg, watching them celebrate a conference championship, knowing that should have been us.
Right.
Not even if we beat them, just if we beat Worcester the week before or whatever it was. Right. Like you look at that and that fueled me. And that was also, I was sitting there talking to my mom and my dad, and I was like, I could go back for it. Like we are this close to a conference championship.
Exactly.
So I give you credit. And I will say you do have a little bit of pressure on you though.
Right.
Because I think a lot of people, especially recent, like I can tell you like Beachy, Coach, I'll call him Coach Teddy for the first time in my entire life. Coach Teddy, like those, even our class, like I feel like we expect you guys to get that conference championship. And like, yeah, it's going to suck for us, but it'll make us fucking happy as shit to see you guys get that ring, because that's all you ever chase when you're playing football. If you're not chasing a conference championship or a state championship or whatever, any type of championship, then what are you playing football for?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, you know, like I wanted you to come back. I was in your ear constantly, but you know, I understood, you know, I mean, I personally wanted you to come back, you know, just to keep on playing that 7-11, but you would have helped the team a lot too. But I mean, you know, that was a decision you had to make, and, you know, I respect it 100%. But yeah, I mean, that taste in the mouth from that Wittenberg game, I just remember we got back in the locker room, and then, you know, we heard them cheering on the field when they found out that DePaul won. Me and they would get to share the conference. I mean, that's just been fuel for me constantly.
I still can't believe DePaul beat Wabash.
Yeah, that was really just the kicker at the end of it too. You know, I mean, it was unbelievable. So,
because we beat DePaul that year too, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And then we
lost to Wabash.
Yep. And then somehow DePaul. That's like a rivalry game between, you know.
I did not realize. Did you know that coming into Ohio Wesleyan that was a giant rivalry in Indiana?
It's like one of like the biggest rivalries in like D3 sports. Like it's like a huge game. I didn't know that.
I remember like freshman year or something. It was on ESPN, and I was like, "What the fuck? Like, why is this on ESPN right now?"
Seeing this on ESPN right now, I'm so confused.
Hey, we made ESPN one time.
We did
our sophomore year.
Yeah, that blocked kick, right?
Or no, that would have been our freshman year, I think.
Yeah, it was our freshman year. Blocked kick against Wabash, right?
It was again. We beat them though, and their kicker had all their points. That game.
That's right. Oh yeah, Hogan blocked the kick, and then their kicker caught it and then scored. I forgot about that. That was insane. Yeah, we ended up winning that game though somehow.
Yeah, but so going a few final thoughts before we wrap into the best segment of the podcast. What are the goals of Shane Quin going forward, and how do you plan to achieve them? Because we've always talked in our leadership meetings that you've been a part of and stuff. They have to be like attainable goals or quantifiable goals. I think too many people these days make goals like, oh, I want to be a better person. All right. How can you like measure that? Is there any way to measure that? So what are your goals going forward and how do you plan to get to them?
Right. Yeah. Great question. I think it's great to talk about goals too. I think like right now, I set goals for myself, like, for every semester or for summer, whatever it may be. So my summer goals are, things small. I want to read, 4 books. Something that's quantifiable. I want to read X amount of books. I want to hit,
I'm going to stop you real quick though.
Here.
Do you have, because I like to read as well. So do you have any book recommendations? Like, do you have books that you were planning to read at least?
Yeah. So we already talked about Can't Hurt Me, David Goggins. Coach D actually recommended that to me 100%. If you're listening to this podcast, go read that book. It's honestly like a life-changing book. It'll change your whole mental process on a lot of things. And then another book I'm going to read is Peak Performance Every Time. Jay Martin actually gave me that here in one of his classes. That's just all about like the mental aspects of sports. And then Atomic Habits is another one that I haven't read yet, but that I know I really want to read. I've heard good things about. So that's a few I've been thinking about so far. I've actually been slacking a little bit on that, but trying to read like 2 books a summer or something, or two books a month, or something like that. So
yeah, it's a good thing to do. And there's another book I'm actually going to recommend to you right now on this podcast, and it's called The Winner's Manual. If you haven't read it, it's where our Champions Manual comes from.
Okay.
So it's Jim Tressel's book, and that's where we get our Champions Manual for. And it kind of like takes you through some of those topics that we have, and that's where I get my topics from for this podcast is the Champions Manual. So I recommend that book, and it's actually, I feel like it's right up your alley. It also has like Jim Tressel's very religious as well, and I just feel like you would enjoy that book as personally yourself.
Yeah, but for sure. I love Jim Tressel too, so yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that.
Yeah, but continue with your goals that you got.
Yeah, and so then for lifting, I have maxes I know I want to hit this summer. And so then going into the, fall season, I want to be an All-American next fall. And so like you talked about, how are you going to accomplish that? I think that's like a good point, I want to be an All-American, so, really just watching the film, seeing the aspects of my game I know I need to get better at, I know I need to be quicker getting to the edge. I know I need to be better getting off blocks, so a lot of that stuff can come right from the weight room and right from being on the field. So, just doing everything that I can to get to that point. Then, the other goal, obviously, this isn't a goal I can personally achieve, but it's just that conference championship, so just really, not even from a playing aspect, it's more from, leadership aspect, being, a 5th-year senior, I know I need to step up a lot more than I have, if we want to have a chance to, get that conference championship. So those are where my goals are at right now for the most part.
You were just recently named something for last season. What was it? I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Yeah, so it was second team All-American, actually. Yeah.
So you're already on that path. And I will say
I gotta put it together for a 10-game season though. Real,
exactly.
But, yeah.
In 3 games, you got second team All-American. So you're doing something right.
For sure, yeah.
But I will say I give you a lot of credit, and this is something that I want to point out. You noticed you didn't just say I want to be this and stop. You said, you noticed your flaws in a way. You said, I got to be better at this. You notice those things, and you know exactly how you can get better at those. And I know, because I know you, and I know you know exactly what to do. But like, it's one of those things that people don't realize. Like, I think a lot of people say, oh, I want to do this, I want to change this, but they don't notice the things that they have to actually change, what they actually have to work on to become better. So shed a little light on that about like, what would you recommend to people like when they want to change, when they want to make a difference in their life? What would you recommend?
Yeah, that's a really good point. The one thing I'd recommend is goal setting for sure. So that's where you got to start at. And also, make them short-term goals to start. Don't start, I want to, something that's way out there. Start small and then work backwards. First set the goal. Okay, that's great. You can set as many goals as you want. It doesn't mean anything. You can write them down. You can get them tattooed on you, whatever you want. Then you got to make a process of exactly how you're going to accomplish that goal. And this is something I actually learned in Jay Martin's class as well, is, once you set that goal, that's not enough. Just setting a goal, that's good, do it. But, that's literally doing nothing for you. Exactly how are you going to accomplish that goal? Step-by-step process. If you start going through a step-by-step process and you're realizing, it still doesn't seem attainable, then maybe you need to rethink, what your goal is,
And it's okay to shift your goals around. Like you're saying, it's okay to set a goal and realize, all right, maybe I set this too big at first. It's okay to bring it down a notch. Because like, that's the thing. You need your little wins every once in a while. You need to have accomplishments, because otherwise you just feel like you're chasing and you're never getting anywhere. And that's when people give up. So you need, like, yes, it's okay to have maybe one big goal, but then also have these little goals that you can accomplish along the way. Because you can't climb a ladder when the steps are, you can't see my hands, but steps are super far apart. It's easier to climb a ladder when you can climb one little step at a time. That's what people, I think we just talked about last episode with Kenny. Like, it's the little things that add up to the big things.
Yep. And I think, like, kind of what you're saying, another way to put it too is fall in love with the process as well. Don't just, you set your goal, and if that's the only time you're going to, enjoy the whole entire, process that you're going through, then you're never really going to reach that goal. Fall in love with the whole entire process of getting there. Like, for you and me, like, we've fallen in love with the whole entire off-season training for football. Obviously our end goal is, whatever, All-American, conference championship, but fall in love with the whole entire process, and you're going to end up being a lot more successful, and you're going to, have those smaller achievements like you were talking about that'll build you up the whole entire way through.
And my thing, you'll never achieve anything without that process.
Right.
Nothing in life is handed to you but death and taxes. That is one thing that I learned from my old man.
Yeah.
Nothing in life is handed to you but death and taxes. Those are the only two things. And I like to throw in too, failure. Failure is going to be fucking handed to you.
Right. Oh, no
failure comes a lot easier than success does.
Absolutely. You got to go through a lot of failures to eventually get to a little bit of success.
Exactly. That is the one thing I don't think people understand. Like, I look at it too with this podcast. This isn't my first podcast. This isn't my first attempt at all this. It's my second. And people are like, oh, didn't you, like, when I first started this, they're like, are you sure you want to do this? Because, like, your last one, I'm like, yeah, I learned a lot from that last one. I learned what not to do. I learned, don't have a narrow focus, like, keep a broad topic, I learned a lot of different things. And that's with any aspect in life. Don't take that failure as I don't know if you know who Jocko Willink is.
Sure.
Yeah, you do. Yeah. So I posted something recent, a couple week or so ago, where he talked about got beat, good. And it was just basically him saying good. He goes, like, if you can say good, then you are still alive and you still have the opportunity. People will talk about all this adversity and all this problems and all this stuff. When I think of adversity now, after I've started doing a lot, like, grown in life and learned a lot more, adversity is an opportunity to become better.
Right.
There is a reason you have that adversity in your life. It's to learn. Because no one's perfect. No one's born perfect. I wish we were. Yeah, we all wish we were. It'd be a lot easier life, but it'd probably be very boring.
Right.
To be perfect. So it's okay to have that adversity. It's okay, because that adversity is going to build your mental toughness, going to build your physical toughness and all that. I think people shy away from adversity when adversity is an opportunity.
Yeah, I think that's really a great line. Adversity is an opportunity. And like you said, like, using your podcast as an example, if you look at anyone that, just focusing on the podcast world that has a really successful podcast today, like, I listen to Team Never Quit podcast all the time. They're kind of similar to stuff that you talk about. At one point, they started the exact same place. That's why people don't understand that. It's like, at some point they were doing the exact same thing. The difference between them and other people is that, they didn't give up on what they were doing, and so continuing to try and, push through the adversity and, have these failures after failures after failures will eventually, lead to success. So I think that's a really good example to use.
Exactly. So another question that I like to kind of wind down with is, who is your biggest inspiration in your life and why?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of people I could choose for this. My family's been very inspirational in my life. I'd say the two individuals that have really just really been extremely inspiring to me, especially when I was in high school and then into college. I had two coaches from my high school, Coach Morawski, who I talked about a little bit earlier, and Coach Hewitt. So I think from, like, an inspirational standpoint, it doesn't even really have to do anything with sports. The inspiration that they gave me, they definitely inspired me to be a better athlete, but really they just inspired me to be a better person, inspired me to be, how to be a man, what it means to be a man, what it means to be a strong Christian, and they really just instilled these values and beliefs in me that I really just didn't have. And so, it was really inspiring for me to see, where they're at now in their lives and, how they got there. And, they really both took me under their wing back when there was really no reason for them to. And so that's probably the reason I want to be a teacher as well, is just, that type of inspiration that I got from, my coaches. There's other coaches too I had back in Chardon that, I can point to as, what really inspired me to do a lot of things I'm doing today.
It's crazy what coaches can do, like especially high school coaches, because as soon as you were saying that, I had a coach to come to mind. I won't say his name because of the things I'm about to say, but in high school, people are like, oh, he's not a good coach. He's not doing anything, blah, blah, blah. Everybody thought he was a bad coach. And then one time I was golfing with Cam Smith's dad, actually.
Okay.
And he said, Coach, blah, blah, blah. He was like, he may not have been the best football coach, but he was one of the best people to take boys and create them to men. Yeah. And that's what high school. Yeah. We want to win in high school. Like you want to go win a state championship, but we're dumb teenagers that don't know what the hell's going on.
Right. Exactly.
And when I think of adversity, good God, I can always think of his locker room speech about adversity. But he taught us a lot about what it takes to be a man. Like he transformed us from that teenager to, all right, grow up a little bit stage, essentially.
Right.
So,
and I think that's more important than any type of X and O's, any type of lift. And don't get me wrong, my coach has also made me a much better athlete, but that doesn't even really matter in the long run. Looking back now, it's like as much as, they put in a lot of time to make me, physically better, but, the lessons that they taught me outside, like what you're talking about with your coach, I mean, that matters way more than, any type of X's and O's, any type of squat or power clean. Some coaches can really, take that time and, have that knowledge to really just create, better men, to go into society. And so I think that's, a pretty cool thing to see.
Yeah. They're like the football thing. It's only a chapter of our life.
Exactly.
It's not our life. It's just a chapter of it.
Right. Yeah.
So if you could go back in time though, and tell yourself one thing, what would it be?
Yeah. I saw this question. It's a really good one. I tell myself a lot. There's a lot I would tell myself, but
I think we all would.
Yeah. I think a lot of advice I could give myself, but that's life. I would say just enjoy the journey. In sports in particular, that's kind of like the theme. The one thing I really think I would have told myself, just enjoy it more. I was always, a little bit too focused on the next game or how I played in the game before or what I could have done better, this and that, who the next opponent is. I wish I would just take a little more time to just enjoy the journey. So anyone that might be listening that is, younger, still got, quite a few years left, in college and in high school, both, just enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Because as I know, now, it'll be gone before you know it. All that little stuff really won't even matter that much. Just enjoy the whole entire process because it really is a great one.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that because I look back and I'm like, I played however many years of football and it just seemed like when you're doing it, it seems like it's going so slow. Yeah. And then it's done and it's like, where did time go? Right. What the hell just happened? And especially this year, only having 3 games. After that 3rd game, I was just like, that's it. Does this really mean I'm done? Is this I'm very confused. It was weird that first Monday morning, not waking up and going to lifting. And I was like, what am I doing? I feel I have so much time. I don't know what to do with myself.
It's unbelievable how much time you probably have now.
Well,
we didn't even know we were done after that 3rd game too. So that was
sucked.
Extremely unique situation. That's what really sucked. But
that was what was that's what made this whole year even worse is all right, we still got another game.
Right.
Wait, you already took my season away. And now you're taking away my last game.
Yeah. It doesn't be much worse than that, man. Yep.
Yeah. At least I will say, at least we got to play a few games.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, a lot of schools didn't even get that.
Exactly.
Most D3 schools didn't even get that, in our conference at least.
Heck, there was only 3 or 4 teams in our conference that played? 3 teams in our conference.
A lot of teams didn't even practice do anything. So, I mean, that's a good point, though. I mean, imagine being a senior and literally doing nothing your whole senior year for football. I mean, that's a whole different ball game. So,
yeah. But with that, it's time to move on to the best segment of the podcast, which is Motivation Monday. Motivation Mondays, where I allow my guests to give a little inspirational bump to set the tone for the week as they listen on their Monday mornings. So what does Quin Man have for Motivation Monday?
All right, for sure. So mine's gonna be a little bit different. Some people might not like it, but I don't really care. So mine's actually gonna be a Bible verse. It's Romans 8:18, and it's, I consider that our present sufferings are not worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. So one more time. I consider that our present sufferings, okay, our sufferings right now, are nothing worth comparing with the glory that will be revealed in us. And why I picked this, obviously, I do have, I have a strong faith, and so I see it from a biblical aspect, but I think that whatever your faith is, whether, you have no faith at all, I think this is something that will be relevant to anyone's lives. The current sufferings that you have right now are going to be nothing compared to the glory that you have later. Okay, so whether it's a sport, okay, the grind that you're going through right now, the suck like we talked about that you're going through right now, it might not feel like it's worth it right now. It might feel like, it's the worst thing in the world right now. But that feeling of how miserable you are is going to be nothing compared to the glory that you're going to have later. Okay, in a sports aspect, it's that glory of being on the field and winning that conference championship or dominating the field. Could be in the business world, these 12-hour days that you're working are going to be nothing compared to the glory that you're going to feel later. And obviously, it could be from a religious aspect as well. What God is doing in your life right now will be nothing compared to the glory that, he's going to show you later. It's all a stepping stone. If you're able to just get through the parts that suck, get through the sucking process, get through the miserable times, it's going to be so well worth it in the end when you are able to have whatever, your glory may be. So that's my little motivational piece for you.
I like that because you are actually the second person to bring a Bible verse on this podcast.
Really?
Yes.
Cool.
Joe Delagrave, who I had on, who is actually getting ready to go compete in the Olympics for the wheelchair rugby. He plays wheelchair rugby, and he's getting ready to go compete in the Olympics in Tokyo. But he brought one on too. But I like how you incorporate, you brought a religious thing into this, but you incorporated it into every aspect of life. There's so many different ways you can look at it. I think when people think religious, sometimes they get like weirded out if they're not religious and they're like shied away from it. But when in reality, like when you look at it, you can take anything religious and like any Bible verse and turn it into any aspect of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I was like, when I saw this Bible verse, I'm like, you can see it from a religious aspect for sure, like I do, but this can relate to anyone.
Yes.
What's going through right now is nothing compared to the glory that you're going to have. That doesn't need to be religious at all if you don't want it to be. That's just a message for life,
Exactly.
Just so I think you can take that a lot of ways. So I think that's a good point too. I mean, there's nothing wrong with bringing a little bit of Bible verse into it as well. So
I'm definitely not complaining. I appreciated that. And I actually needed that because this week has been awful. But with that, that's a wrap on episode 41 of the Roughnecks podcast. As always, if you like this episode, be sure to hit that subscription button. There are awesome guests lined up next month. So be sure to tune in with our new topic, which I will announce right now. Usually I don't announce unless it's on social media, but I'll announce it right now. It is focus. So it's taking that transition from toughness to focus. Be on the lookout for our future episodes because you do not want to miss them. Fankhauser is actually hooking me up with a guy. So I got a good one coming next month. Hopefully it all still works out. He texted me and said it was still good, but you never know with things fall through.
On the screen with him.
He's also in training camp. So like, it's a little bit of a different circumstance, but be on the lookout for those episodes. Until next week, y'all, you know the deal. Life is hard. Will knock you down just like a bull does to a bull rider. What are you going to do? Let the bull of life walk all over you? Or are you going to get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life? Until next week, Roughnecks out. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Roughnecks podcast. If you like this episode, be sure to subscribe and then hit that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future episodes. If you want to be a guest on this podcast or have a guest idea, then email me at roughneckspodcast@gmail.com or message me on social media on Instagram at Roughnecks Podcast, Twitter at RoughnecksPodC1, or Facebook at Roughnecks Podcast. Life is hard and will knock you down just like a bull will. Don't lay there and let it run you over. Get up, grab the bull by the horns, and take control of your life. Till next week,
Roughnecks.